you for your introduction, Professor Kelly. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Guo from Taiwan. It's my honor to be moderator of the symposium. First of all, I would like to show my sincere gratitude to Professor Matthew Yang, who invited us to hold the symposium on behalf of Taiwan Otolaryngological Society. And the theme of the symposium is population-based studies in otological epidemiology. And today we have 4 speakers, including Dr. Wang from Taipei Veterans General Hospital, Dr. Wu from Taipei City Hospital, and Ms. Zhang from Taipei Veterans General Hospital, and myself from Taoyuan Armed Forces General Hospital. And each speaker will have 30 minutes for presentation, including questions. And if the speaker uses 30 minutes for talk, and we may not have sufficient time for questions. As you can see, this is Taiwan. Taiwan is a country in East Asia, and it faces the Pacific Ocean. In Taiwan, national health insurance system has been used since 1995, or more than 20 years ago. And the system is the compulsory healthcare mechanism, and it covers 99% of the residents in Taiwan. So the major strength of the study using national health insurance database is that this is the population-based study with a big sample size with minimal selection bias to increase the statistical power. And today's 4 speakers will report their studies based on National Health Insurance Database. I'm the first speaker of the symposium, and my topic today is the increased risk of depression in patients with cholesteatoma, a nationwide study. By the way, as editor-in-chief of the British Open Access Journal, Otolaryngology, Hand and Surgery, it's my honor to invite you to submit your wonderful work to our journal. And we welcome all kinds of articles with respect to ENT field. When it comes to cholesteatoma, we all know that it's very common for patients to suffer from frequent episodes of foul-smelling otorrhea, hearing impairment, tinnitus, vertigo, in some rare cases, facial paralysis, or intracranial fatal complications. And for patients who are not candidate for surgery, they may need some frequent OPD visits for ear cleaning. But it's quite inconvenient for patients, especially for busy patients or those who live in remote areas. And for patients with postoperative open cavity, they may face the need for lifelong oral toilets or limitations in exposure to water and caloric stimulation vertigo when cold air or water enters the cavity and cosmetically unpleasing appearance. Furthermore, the threat of recurrence may raise fears among patients with respect to the need for repeated revision surgeries. So, because of these adverse consequences associated with cholesteatoma, it's reasonable to expect that psychological burden has a great impact on patients' quality of life. And this psychological burden may cause the patient to become socially withdrawn and subsequent depressive disorders. So our hypothesis is that depression would be the possible consequence of the physical impairments caused by cholesteatoma. And the aim of the study was to investigate the risk of developing depression following diagnosis with cholesteatoma. As mentioned before, national health insurance has been used in Taiwan for more than 20 years. It covers 99% of the residents in Taiwan. Our study was conducted based on a subset of the National Health Insurance database, that is Longitudinal Health Insurance Database. And this database contains data from 1 million beneficiaries enrolled in 2005. And these 1 million beneficiaries represents a random sample of enrollees, all enrollees in 2005, and the total number is more than 25 million. The accuracy of the database has been proved in the literature, and we found no differences in the distributions of gender, age, or healthcare cost. So our study was a retrospective cohort study using longitudinal health insurance database to analyze the occurrence of the depression in a cohort of patients. And the cohort of patients consisted of two subgroups, including cholesteatoma and non-cholesteatoma subgroup. In the cholesteatoma subgroup, we included patients who were newly diagnosed with cholesteatoma from 1997 to 2007. And to ensure the accuracy of the cholesteatoma diagnosis, we only included patients with 2 or more outpatient visits or 1 or more one patient visit for cholesteatoma. And patients with a history of depression were excluded. In the non-cholesteatoma subgroup, 5 patients without cholesteatoma were randomly matched to each patient in cholesteatoma cohort based on age, sex, and index year. Our outcome variable was the occurrence of developing depression within 3 years after being diagnosed with cholesteatoma. And to ensure the accuracy of the depression diagnosis, the diagnostic codes had to be assigned by a psychiatrist. And we only included the patients with 2 or more outpatient visits or 1 or more inpatient visits for depression. This is the flowchart of our study design. As you can see, it's very hard. Using longitudinal health insurance database, patients who met our criteria were included, and this cohort of patients consisted of 2 subgroups, including cholesteatoma and the non-cholesteatoma group, with the ratio 1 to 5. And we compare the risks of the new onset depression between these 2 groups. This table demonstrates the patient characteristics. The total of the 10,920 patients were included in the study. And between these 2 groups, we found differences between some variables between these 2 groups, and these potential confounders were put into cost regression model for adjustment. After adjusting for these confounders, we found that compared to patients without cholesteatoma patients were almost 2 times more likely to suffer from new onset depression in a 1-year follow-up period. And the risk of depression remained significant even in a 2-year or 3-year follow-up period. This figure demonstrates the depression-free probability in the 2 groups. As you can see, cholesteatoma patients had a lower depression-free probability in a 3-year follow-up compared to non-cholesteatoma patients. To ensure the accuracy of our data, in other words, we hope that we can make sure all of our patients were cholesteatoma patients, we excluded patients without cholesteatoma surgery. In other words, we only included patients with cholesteatoma code and cholesteatoma surgery code at the same time. And these are the National Health Insurance surgical procedure codes for cholesteatoma surgery. Now you can see there were about 1/3 of original cholesteatoma patients who underwent cholesteatoma surgery. And we still found some confounders between these 2 groups, and these 2 confounders were still put into cost regression model for adjustment. And again, we still found that compared to patients without cholesteatoma patients were almost 2 times more likely to suffer from new onset of depression compared to patients without cholesteatoma in the 3-year follow-up period. And from this figure, we still found that the patients with cholesteatoma had a lower depression-free probability in the 3-year follow-up period compared to patients without cholesteatoma. Our study was the first research to demonstrate association between cholesteatoma and subsequent depression. And we suggest that clinicians should keep in mind the probability of the psychological problems among patients with cholesteatoma. And as mentioned before, the major strength of the study using national health insurance is that this is the population-based study with a big sample size and as well as the minimal selection bias to increase the study power. But there are still some limitations in the study. First, there may be surveillance bias. For example, patients with cholesteatoma may have more outpatient visits such that they are more likely to be diagnosed or detected to have the psychological disorders compared to patients without cholesteatoma. And importantly, although in the study we found an association between, statistical association between cholesteatoma and depression, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there is a causal association between these two disorders. But it helps remind clinicians of the probability of the psychological disorders after being diagnosed with cholesteatoma. And our study was recently published in Journal of Affective Disorders. Finally, I would like to show beauties of Taiwan to you. As you can see, Taiwan is the mostly mountainous in the east, and you can see the incredible and pretty sunrise in these mountains. Of course, if you can get up early enough, just like today. And this is Taipei 101, which is the landmark of Taiwan. It used to be the tallest building in the world between 2004 and 2010. And we have the 149 markets where you can try various delicious foods. And we have the 104 interesting traditions in Taiwan. And I'm pretty sure these beautiful sceneries will be unforgettable in your life. Thank you and welcome to Taiwan. And I will.
Yeah, I just thought I would take questions as it was your talk. Yeah. Any questions for Dr. Cole? Yes.
Do you know the incidence or the prevalence of depression in anybody having surgery?
Yeah. The incidence rate, the incidence rate of depression in the cholesteatoma patients is about 2 times of that in patients without cholesteatoma. And the incidence rate is about 0.04%.
Yeah, but if you know if anybody has an operation for anything.
An operation?
Well, yeah, surgery for anything. Does surgery cause depression rather than cholesteatoma surgery? Do you have any figures?
No, we don't have the data.
I'm interested to know. You can get that from your database quite easily.
Thank you.
I was interested that you said the problems of cholesteatoma were ear cleaning and cosmetic, which are quality of life issues that may not fit into an exact definition of depression. Yeah. And so I worry that you've overlooked an awful lot of quality of life by using a very surrogate marker of depression. Yeah. You could have looked at sleeplessness or a whole lot of other, but you've got a fantastic database. Yeah. Can you use that database to get a more accurate answer on the question of quality of life? Yeah, but quality of life the data of quality of life in patients may not available in our database because this is the National Health Insurance database. But I totally agree with that. Maybe we overestimate the risks because, just like what I said, there may be a surveillance bias. Patients with cholesteatoma may be more likely to have more outpatient visits. But because this is our hypothesis, because we think that many patients after surgery have an open cavity and then require repeated cleaning. So we just hypothesize that these kind of patients may have the depressive disorders. So we use our database to check our hypothesis, and it shows the evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. One last question, if there's anybody. Okay. Thank you very much.